Unlocking the mystery of Bigfoot is a journey into the unknown, and a mission that for some can last a lifetime. Finding Bigfoot has followed this team of experts as they travel the globe in search of an elusive legend.
I think he saw one.
There are hairs in here.
Why do you have to think it's a Bigfoot?
I'm ready for tigers, Renee.
And once again, the team that has rekindled the fascination with Bigfoot has agreed to share their secrets. I'm Keith Hoffman, executive producer of Finding Bigfoot. And once more, I've asked Matt, Cliff, Renee, and Bobo to come in from the wild to reveal what lurks in the darkness.
What is that?
Surprisingly squatchy behavior. Behind-the-scenes moments in Indonesia.
I remember holding a machete thinking, all right, let's get out of this maze.
And how it feels to live life in the spotlight.
Are you sure you're not Bigfoot? Have you looked in the mirror?
No topic is off limits.
So Bigfoot broke up your marriage.
There was more to it than that, of course.
The team holds nothing back.
If I can't explain it, I'm the first one to say that.
The whole thing is to distinguish between what's fake and what's real.
So join us to find out more than ever about their quest.
This is epic.
Recently, the Finding Bigfoot team went squatching overseas. And for the first time, I get to ask them about their most memorable moments.
Looking good, man.
She said it's the biggest one.
One thing that is really exciting this season is that we go international. So I want to talk about Indonesia.
Hello.
I have to say I'm a little obsessed with the orang pendek. How is orang pendek related to a Bigfoot?
They're about yay tall. They're muscular.
Wait, what's yay tall mean?
About 4 feet tall.
So it's like a little Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's just like a little Bigfoot, gray-colored fur. Walking bipedally. There's just things about the, the nose and the wide mouth.
Well, there's another thing it does. Because can somebody want to imitate a?
Oh no.
They go like
the
this.
hands above the head.
Yeah, do it, Bobo.
We love witnesses that imitate them and like mimic them and do the sounds. And this guy, we're sitting there talking, all of a sudden he starts going, what? Doing this whole thing.
They're always reporting that they're like, la, 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 like that,
When they're running away from people.
But when I think of Sumatra, I think of some of the grueling hiking.
You can see the tree line, so you've nearly all made it.
The Sumatrans don't understand the idea of switchbacks. They make their trails.
Well, switchback explain to
You know,
us city
when you're
folks.
hiking up steep terrain, they'll cut it and they'll switch it back so that you're not going straight up the hill. So here we are in Indonesia. We have our gear. We're usually being led by our witness, who's on average usually 50. One gentleman was 70-year-olds, kicking our butt, walking straight up this little goat trail. It was hard to find sustenance back at night when we'd return to where we were staying.
Weird smells, crazy drivers, foods I've never seen before. No vegetables.
Real protein. I mean, yeah, it was tough eating too.
Were there any mishaps or anything along the way? Did everyone make it, Bobo?
That shit's not in there.
How does Keith know about it?
I saw you fall in Indonesia.
You know, I'm the little engine that could, but Bobo is the big freight train that will. Like I said.
Oh, they better cut that out.
Indonesia was amazing, but in Australia, the team encountered even more surprises when it was searching for its resident Bigfoot, the Yowie.
I can't fit my head through here.
You don't look that much different than normal.
Tell me how the Yowie compares to Bigfoot and how he's different from Bigfoot.
It's very similar. We got maybe the best audio recordings of a Yowie while we were there.
Of course I can't see. Can't tell me that was a kangaroo.
To go into Australia and do night investigations where there are poisonous snakes and spiders and animals.
It was a different feel,
It was
right?
very different. It was very foreign feeling.
Stuff that wouldn't eat you, but stuff that would kill you.
I feel like a little girl because it's like nothing around here looks familiar to me. Everything is so foreign looking.
And Cliff, you had one of my favorite moments when you're like playing patty cake.
It was one of my favorite moments as well. It was one of the very few times where I was close to this thing and I was making a noise and it was answering me.
That's another one where I got chills watching that because you're just like, they're here. They're around me now.
Hey man, I got at least 2 of these things around me right now. I knew I loved Bigfooting, but I had no idea that I loved Yowie-ing so much.
All right, dangerous country, Australia. How did you hurt your ankle in Australia?
Matt was throwing the boomerang to me, and it hit me.
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
Ow!
Oh, you're bleeding.
Yeah, I got a scar right here, permanent. And it's actually chipped. I found out later I severed that tendon. That's that little ball there, and then I cracked the bone too, but.
I really didn't do that on purpose, but now there's a lot of blood coming out of his leg.
It's all right.
Cliff and I were saltwater fishing, and I just moved up the beach.
It was definitely a freak boomerang incident with a boomerang and two freaks.
I eventually did get a hold of the smaller hog, mostly because the smaller hog scared me less.
What was that? Dang.
We should boogie out of here before one of us takes him around.
Walking around in the woods at night has led this team into some scary
That's agitated.
and even dangerous situations.
I want to see if there's any eastern timber rattlers ready to snuggle up.
From big growling animals to tiny insects.
That one's already launching babies.
These guys have had to deal with it all. There's other more dangerous things in the woods besides Bigfoot.
I think it's a mother bear and cub.
I went up with you guys. I just went out for one night in Northern California, and I remember you were like, don't separate from the pack because mountain lions or bobcats?
Mountain lions.
Mountain lions.
Mountain lions, like pick the weak one, which I'll say like a second after that, Bobo, you sent me off on myself to meet up with them. So I was like,
We like you more now.
and I'm just like, yeah, you're still on the fence, I guess, with that one. But I mean, what other kinds of...
I think there's been two instances where I actually was extra alert. When we went to Sumatra, we were in Kerinci National Park, which is the Sumatran Tiger Preserve.
You guys had a very scary moment where you're hearing breathing.
We were in this grass that easily was about 8 feet high down this little maze. All of a sudden, I heard a noise that was like, you know, a bear is a like
But
that. But it had more of a cat sound to it.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. It sounded like a huff.
That's like a bear or a big cat that does that. That's agitated.
And that to me was, that's a tiger. We're too low for a clouded leopard. It's definitive. And I remember holding our parang, which is a machete, thinking, all right, let's get out of this maze. Let's get out of here.
This just doesn't feel right. We were just thinking, this is not good. We should probably, that was a warning, and we should not play around.
Well, Cliff and I said this is a great chance for ratings. Matt or Renee gets taken out.
That was a shot, right? Not a knock.
You guys have been shot at.
I was doing some calls, and all of a sudden, we saw like the coon hunter lights down below, and all of a sudden they started coming at us, and we did some more calls, and then the gunshots started coming at us. Now we just heard gunshots.
I mean, I've had guys shoot at me where like the bullets were flying by me, but in these cases, we were howling and they were pop, pop, pop. They were shooting, I think, to make us go away.
Snap, crackle, pop.
That was a crazy night.
What do you think they thought? Did they think you were just playing?
They either thought we were Bigfoots or people howling out to Bigfoots.
To be fair, though, they might have just thought we were weirdos screaming in the woods.
I particularly remember on a solo investigation, you've battled mosquitoes.
Minnesota.
He hates bugs. No, I don't know anybody more that hates bugs than you.
Get off me. They love me. I got that blood type they go for, and only the females bite, so it's a double whammy. And there was bugs I'd never seen before. 3 days later, these guys come back, and the wind had picked up, the sun came out, and they were all gone. I was sitting there telling these guys, it was hell. They're like, this isn't so bad. I'm like,
You're alive.
barely. I have to get a blood transfusion, dude. The mosquitoes took it all out of me.
You have the blood type we all love. It attracts us all, Bobo. So.
Hello, folks. Thank you for coming.
It was like a homecoming. A giant Bigfoot statue.
This team has been squatching long before finding Bigfoot and will continue long after. And they never dreamt they'd be famous for it.
Wow, who did that?
It's been quite an adjustment to be recognized by a growing legion of fans.
How much are you recognized now? I imagine when you're together, you get recognized a little more?
It's really a factor of if the show's on the air.
Yeah.
Like, if it's between season, it doesn't happen as much.
We've gotten out of a few parking tickets, potential
Speeding tickets,
potential
that's right.
speeding
Yeah.
tickets, and I think one time
When you're together, or?
we were all happened to be in the car, and we were heading to the airport. We were pulled over, and the state
Vermont.
trooper Yeah, in Vermont, and he recognized us. Oh, I'm a big fan, so we pulled out the autograph cards, and he let us go.
I know when there's a marathon on because I can't go to the store without taking an hour to get in and out.
Bobo gets recognized the most, and it must be so different now. The kids aren't running away from him, you know, when they have fun.
You guys do whoops? Do a whoop. I was just at the beach, and like 3 busloads of kids pulled up. I mean, there was like 150 kids flipping out.
And just the starstruck look in their face when they're looking at you is just, it's so magical, because you're just like, wow, they're looking at me like that.
My favorite thing is when families contact me via my Facebook fan page or Twitter, and they will send either videos or photos of the family watching the show together or the kids going out into the woods.
Yeah, pretending to be us.
Find anything yet? No. Why don't we look for Bigfoot in the day? Because that would make sense.
It's cool that they say, hey, I enjoy the show. What are you guys doing? Like, it's like a little 5-10 minute exchange with them. But what I hate is the kooks that think they're so funny saying the stupid jokes. Are you sure you're not Bigfoot? Have you looked in the mirror?
That's a weird position. Now, I didn't know Bobo could move that fast. The question that I hate the most is, so did you find him yet? And I just, you know, really, you've got to come up with something more original than that, really.
Somebody's going to say, you know, they're going to say.
But for me, when I have my break-ins, my downtime, my friends, if they love and care about me, are not going to ask me about Bigfoot.
You said that
Sasquatch.
they're not allowed to say the B word when
Yeah,
you're on
they're
break.
not allowed to bring up the B word.
B word embargo.
You know what I've had happen a couple of times is I went to a place and somebody came up and they looked at me, you're Matt Moneymaker.
Coming up,
It sounded like James Earl Jones making owl sounds.
Ooh, that's a squatch.
a few squatchy facts you definitely need to know.
Are they dangerous to people?
Plenty of people do go missing in the woods.
And later, truth or hoax? The team gets skeptical.
They usually don't wear blue jeans.
I know that we're the envy of squatchers everywhere. Squatchers have come under geese and ducks and just grab them, just yank them right down.
Anyone who watches Finding Bigfoot will be surprised by what they learn.
It makes me wonder whether these were twins.
Sasquatches are often seen in cemeteries.
And there are even more Bigfoot facts that the team was excited to tell me about. I know the answer to some of why this is, but let's go over some facts you guys can explain. So what is Sasquatch? What's the origin of that?
Sasquatch is a Native American term from the Coast Salish Indian tribe in Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia. Their word was anglicized by a teacher who worked on the reservation in the 1920s by the name of J.W. Burns. He started taking reports from the local natives about these giant hair-covered Indians that lived in the mountains and whatnot.
Well, it's also become quite an adjective for describing woods as being squatchy woods.
It's looking good. It's feeling squatchy.
This is one of the squatchiest parts of one of the squatchiest states in America.
I'd never really planned to come to Rhode Island, let alone be squatching here.
I wanted to call this show Squatch What Happens, but... Another fact, or theory, or you can tell me, that Bigfoots mimic other animals.
Fact. It sounds like an 800-pound man imitating an animal. They came from right there.
Yeah. Just like the sound you do sometimes. Like, oh!
Yeah.
But that's what I've heard them imitating a bear huff, going, the sounds bears will make.
We also get reports of mimicking coyotes and whistles.
I'm hearing coyotes.
It ain't a coyote. Point it out that way, you'll hear it. That's a squatch.
The one time I think I heard a Sasquatch imitating another animal, it sounded like James Earl Jones making owl sounds. Just hoo, hoo, like that over and over again. It was funny to me at the time.
Hoo, hoo. They're masters of intimidation. They've got humans figured out pretty well what to do to make us leave.
Are they dangerous to people? Are people dangerous to them?
They're dangerous to people in the respect that they could scare you really bad, and if you have a weak heart, you could die from it. They're definitely dangerous to dogs, but they seem to know better than to hurt a human.
That being said, plenty of people do go missing in the woods every year.
I honestly thought I was gonna die.
Would you say they're closer to a gorilla or a human?
Behaviorally, there's a lot of parallels with humans, but there's so many things about them that are so distinctively ape-like and not human-like.
You talk to the natives and they'll all tell you they view the Sasquatch, the Yowie, the Yetis in Asia as a lost tribe of like primitive humans.
If you go into the forest, you always take 2 stones with you and you tap on those stones at night because The hairy people also tap stones to say, I'm here.
So I'm in a cave and a Bigfoot comes in. What should I do?
I would try to make the moment last as long as possible by assuming a non-threatening body posture.
First, I would just call the president of Animal Planet and say, get cameras up here.
I want to be a believer. You got to help me out.
Some of my favorite moments on Finding Bigfoot come from their solo investigations, because each team member is given the chance to try their own clever, humorous,
I'm feeling just right here,
and unique tracking ideas.
Whose turf is it now, creature?
You'll notice in the earlier shows, there's no solo investigations. We came up with a thing, I think, together, like that one of you goes out.
I was quitting if we didn't do that.
I think it was more of a concession, and we all wanted that very much because, you know, when we're going out with the two teams, you have multiple people walking, making noise. To let someone break away, which I kind of find it ridiculous. It's called solo camping. Obviously, we have another person who's filming us, but we're out there. That's two people who can be very quiet and really do whatever technique you want to do and really do squatching in the true essence of the form.
I'm going to make noise, and I'm going to do that all the way back to my camp, and then I'm just going to act like a regular camper, crawl in my tent, and hope something happens tonight.
You all are very different in your solos. Cliff, you and the owl I always talk about.
That sound that you're hearing is a screaming sound by a barred owl. I'm glad it didn't poop. Probably would have hit me.
Do an owl. Can you do an owl?
Oh, Matt.
Like
That's good.
Yeah, Matt has a great owl.
Oh, it is a good owl.
Yeah, the solo stuff is by far my favorite time.
Yeah, we live for it.
It's real.
Is it because you get away from each other, or
that's part of it. I mean, certainly it's part of it because, you know, it's like having, you know, 3 girlfriends with me all the time, you know? But it's a chance to get out and really listen and go to places that you can't go with the crew.
It's getting near the witching hour. In a really good place here.
You guys see the shows before they air. Have you seen each other in solo investigations going, like, what's Moneymaker doing, rolling in leaves? Or
My favorite was him smelling the ground. He goes, smells grassy.
Yeah. When we see each other out on expeditions, I put myself in a position of a non-Bigfooter, like, thinking, like, what are these fools doing out there?
And where was the leads?
Pine Needles was in the Sierra Nevadas.
Sierra Nevada. And then the Bobo and the Bacon is another of my favorite.
So bacon is a known Squatch attractant. You always got to show Squatch it's safe to eat it. Eat some yourself.
How about Bobo peeing around all over the places?
Oh, the New Mexico one.
Oh, Bobo peeing in New Mexico.
So I'm going to start drinking this bad boy and get to work.
That was the one where I got a call saying, is it okay if we show Bobo peeing to mark his territory? That's the fun part of my job, where I'm like, okay, Bobo can pee.
Operation Turf Mark commencing. Whose turf is it now, creature? Whose turf is it now?
Coming up,
I don't hear about people dressing up as deer and running in front of cars.
the team tells us how they really feel.
What do you think about hoaxers?
Death sentence.
That sentence, and things get a little heated.
You're just an idiot.
Why do we immediately have to attack the opposite side?
As she was telling us where she saw the thing, it seemed almost too fantastic.
There's no way that's a Sasquatch. It's a person.
The Finding Bigfoot team is expert at determining what is real and what is fake.
Todd's video clip is ambiguous, whether it's a Sasquatch or not.
It was really easy to shake around. You didn't have to have superhuman strength like a Sasquatch. Anyone could have done it.
In their world, there is nothing worse than a hoaxer. And believe me, you don't want to try to fool these guys.
What do you think about hoaxers?
Death sentence.
That sentence.
I think it's so weird that people hoax. Bigfoots are a perfectly normal species of animal that lives here in North America. I don't hear about people dressing up as deer and running in front of cars. To me, it's the same thing.
If you're really into Bigfoot stuff, you've been looking at hoax material for so long, you can just pick it off right off the bat.
It looks pretty hoaxy. It's just 3 seconds. It's kind of shaky. He pans up, and then you see this big thing kind of just go down.
I love when you guys are just like, don't believe that guy.
And there's been a few. You're seeing it move along, and you decide to shoot
It's like
past it.
jogging like
I can't find anything in it that makes me believe it's possible, let alone credible.
In Ohio, you went out to investigate footage. It looked like a Bigfoot shaking a tree, which is Bigfoot behavior, correct?
Then we can hear the roots cracking in it.
But they usually don't wear blue jeans when they do that. Bobo, you look bigger than that figure.
I really can't tell.
So, was he a hoaxer?
What he was describing didn't, in the end, didn't add up.
That's like a high school principal. He gets on people. It's pretty good because, like, I'm like, oh, really? He'll be like, no.
Okay, what was the color of the skin? Was it the same as the forehead?
It was the same.
Well, that's not what they look like either. Their nose has black skin on it, like the black skin on a dog's nose. You start letting them know that if they're really making it up, then they're quivering. I mean, our whole thing is to distinguish between what's fake and what's real.
There's a rule now that if anybody is caught faking anything on the crew, they're out. They're fired.
It has been applied.
Yes.
I got a permanent knee injury in Florida that night. I ran off and ate it off the porch. That was the producer that got fired. He bashed a tree with a baseball bat, and I'm running because I just hear this loud wood knock. The worst thing to do to us as Squatchers is hoax us, and like, I thought we were friends, you know?
Yeah, and if there's one thing you get from watching our show, clear as day, is that we are not actors.
You want to try some?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's not rainwater.
No, I'd take it easy on that.
Just a sip.
Just a sip.
How many people have heard something that couldn't be anything but a Sasquatch?
I knew what I'd seen, and unequivocally, it was a Squatch.
I knew what it was. I knew it was a Bigfoot, and it scared me to death.
I'm not a believer. I'm a knower.
This is the most compelling evidence that I've had so far.
Oh, I think he saw one.
That's a Squatch.
Is it crazy? I don't know. I've been told looking for Sasquatch is crazy anyway. I don't care.
There are countless people who believe Bigfoots could exist, but there's a difference between believing and knowing. And to this team, that's a very important difference.
You keep saying believer and believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've covered this before. It's knowing. I mean, we know Sasquatch is a biological reality. It's real, and the proof is going to come out soon enough.
Belief is really for religion and like politics or opinions.
It has a faith nuance to it.
But in this case, we're dealing with basically physical anthropology. We're dealing with a primate here. This is science. And there is data that suggests that Sasquatches are in fact a real species.
One of you said, it's like, once you've seen one, it would be like somebody saying, do you believe in a dog? It's
right.
Like, why would I believe in a dog? I've seen a dog.
It's a whole different thing after you've seen one. And it's amusing to hear people try to explain to you how it's impossible that they could exist and why they don't exist. And you're just looking at them like, you're just an idiot.
There's this ongoing controversy that persists, and everybody should be able to read up on it, look into it, try to have their experience, but why do we immediately have to attack the opposite side?
Well, I personally think it's one reason why people love this show. If you have a passion and you care about Bigfoot.
Yeah. That wasn't okay.
That was a Squatch.
Dude, I'm getting fired up.
This is extremely rare, what we're looking at here.
We hit the lottery.
I think it's just the opposite of a lot of skepticism out there, and I think
There's a difference between cynicism and skepticism, and that to me is very important.
skepticism can be a healthy, well, let's look at the other side. Cynicism, to me, is an automatic, like...
Yeah, you're biased and prejudiced
BS.
going in. Skepticism is just, you're taking that, you're ruling it out. If I can't explain it, I'm the first one to say that. These guys are like, well, hey, it's that.
Yeah, but that's a very big misperception on this show, is that she's the only skeptic. We're all skeptical of things. It's not like we're just sitting there going, duh, and Renee's like, well, I think they went through that. Yeah.
I just don't know about this one.
Wow. Matt, you and I kind of somewhat agree, and I'm almost speechless.
Up next, Cliff shares some rare pieces of evidence from his personal collection.
I have photographs of butt prints where one sat down.
And his moneymaker, Matt's real name?
I'm Matt Moneymaker. Matt Moneymaker. It could have been worse. Looking for long, thin, wavy black hairs. This is a really good sign. God, you can feel this is such a good location.
Okay, let's put her down here then.
As head of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, Matt Moneymaker has a lot of experience dealing with evidence.
That's a big one.
So why does he reject some claims and investigate others? And what's with that name?
So I am here with Matt Moneymaker, the Matt Moneymaker. Do you want to explain once and for all, is Moneymaker a real name or a made-up name?
It is absolutely a real name. It could have been worse. My dad's name is Rich Moneymaker, and I could have been Rich Moneymaker Jr., so I'm glad I'm Matt Moneymaker.
Yeah, Matt Moneymaker's got a good ring to it.
I'm Matt Moneymaker. Matt Moneymaker. Matt Moneymaker. I'm Matt Moneymaker of the BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
Usually what gets you guys to a location is that there is some sort of evidence that the Finding Bigfoot group is going to investigate. Any video won't bring you to a location, correct? I mean, you have to feel like there is a validity to it that is worth investigating.
Most of the ones that we would look at and evaluate as to whether or not we should go check them out are just fake.
Obviously, I think sometimes anyone could look at one and know it's a fake, but are the things you look for that tell you right away this is fake, or do you have examples?
There are, and it's funny because usually they don't put a ton of work into it, and so the costume is very poor quality. So they'll do things to make it difficult to really clearly see the figure. They'll either have it very far away, or they'll have it through something that makes it so you can kind of see it, but not very well. You're like, why is this even being filmed? And then the fake thing comes in the background, and then you realize, oh, that was a setup.
It seems like this figure, when it stands straight up, is a bit below the top of the bushes. And the impression that I get from the original is that it's a human.
The witnesses that you guys tend to speak to, there's something that just feels so real about them. I'll say, and the ones that are fake, also the part of it is it just feels like there's bad acting.
Right. That's another key.
No detail, nothing. I could just tell it was the figure of a man.
You'll hear it usually when they speak, you know, you can just hear by the tone. Gee, what is that? Oh my gosh.
Maybe Meryl Streep could pull it off.
Exactly.
Why was the video so blurry?
I couldn't figure that out myself.
Do you have a favorite piece of evidence that you've investigated?
I think the most telling piece of video that we have was the New York baby footage. You can really see that thing climbing through the tree really well.
I agree for once with you guys. It is a primate, some type of ape, known or unknown.
And to me, it was a great joy because when I saw that, I realized, okay, that should tell everyone that their assumptions about the lineage of them being, you know, some kind of primitive human, etc. That's not it. They're clearly some kind of arboreal ape.
You could sure see this thing was designed for climbing around in trees, and that thing over there was not.
Do you think the next big definitive piece of evidence would be like something DNA, or do you think it's going to be that somebody gets...
DNA will make a lot of people say, oh, wow.
If this hair samples proves it, you probably see me do cartwheels around the building.
This could be the physical hard evidence that not only we all need, but everybody wants.
Recently, scientists in Texas claim they have found Bigfoot DNA. Whether it's true or not, Matt believes definitive proof is around the corner.
There's a revolution in optics right now. Clear video will be more persuasive, even to most scientists, than DNA.
I want to warn Bigfoot, just keep hiding.
Come on, Sasquatch, I know you're out here.
There's differences between them.
Cliff Barackman's specialty is Bigfoot prints. He's collected hundreds over the years.
We're looking at right foot to right foot. It's 7 feet.
And is always on the lookout for more. I wanted to get a closer look at some of the most compelling evidence in his collection. So I sat Cliff down one-on-one. I think you'd even call yourself a bit of a nerd about Bigfoot prints.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of a nerd about Bigfoot in general.
Oh, check it out, check it out.
No way.
Before we tear it apart.
Let's document it before it's destroyed.
We wanted to show these casts you have because, after all, we've got some big feet here. Do you have a favorite?
No, I don't have a favorite. You know, it's if you have like 6 kids, they're all your favorite.
Do you want to just generally just tell me what each of this is?
These 2 footprints come from Washington, Grays Harbor County. They were collected back in 1982. This cast comes from Northeast Oregon in a place called Mill Creek Watershed. It was collected in 1986. And then finally, this individual specimen over here was collected in February of 2012 by me. I cast this one outside Cottage Grove in Oregon.
Let's start with this one.
Yeah, this is a particularly exciting cast to me, at least. This is one of the clearest casts ever taken. This side of the foot, these bumps actually correspond to where bones are lying underneath the foot. Now, it turns out that the ankle bone in the Sasquatch is actually shoved further forward on the foot, which would be a necessary biomechanical redesign of the foot structure in order to carry a heavier mass like a Sasquatch. And there's actually more features. Like if you look down
Do you need
this
me to hold
cast.
it, or
No.
Okay.
If you look down this cast, do you see that?
Yeah.
There's a concavity to the outside edge of the foot.
Right.
What that is that when, see, you have a fat pad on the bottom of your foot. That's about a ½ an inch thick.
You don't know I have a fat pad.
Well, I know you've been working out, so I know it's only a ½ an inch thick.
All right. Let's not get mean here, okay?
Sasquatches seem to have a much thicker fat pad on the bottom of their foot. So when the foot went into the mud, the fat pad expanded on the sides and left this concavity. So when the weight was taken off the foot, it sucked in and then was removed and put into another footprint like that.
It had to be a moving
It had to be a living, malleable foot because
not just I've made
wooden stompers or
yes,
something.
and I'm doing that.
The next print, the right print, was somewhere in here.
Okay, Carl Lewis, let's see how far you can jump. No.
Once again, fail. This is a human print for comparison, and as you can see, superficially they look the same, but there's some subtle details in here. First of all, there's an arch right here. Sasquatches don't have an arch. They actually have retained flexibility about the mid part of the foot. The human foot also has a very subtle telltale sign of being human, which is the pinky toe. The pinky toe up here in humans curls inwards, which is a function of wearing shoes all of your life. But here, clearly in the Sasquatch foot, it is free. Looking at a possible Bigfoot cast is like looking at a puzzle. You have to take some time and really examine it closely to see where things fit in. Is this real or is this not?
You have other casts of other things, right? You have hands.
Oh, yeah. I have about 150 specimens in my collection now. Most of them are feet. I also have about 5 or 6 handprints where a Sasquatch put his hand down in the mud for whatever reason. I have a knuckle print, which is extremely interesting because it clearly shows the positioning of the thumb, which is different than where our thumb is located. And also, I have photographs of everything from like butt prints where one sat down. Possible knee prints.
If it were a hoax, then it had to be a very
An anatomist is doing
smart. Yes, there's an anatomist hoaxer out there doing.
Yeah, you know, there's an old-time Bigfoot hunter named Rene Dahinden who passed a number of years back, and he would say, "Oh, there's no hard evidence for Bigfoot. Let me whack you over the head with one of these, and you tell me if it's hard."
Up next,
You gotta be brain dead not to be fascinated by it.
the team investigates Bigfoot folklore with the help of an expert.
This isn't folklore, it's real.
And they come to some squatchy conclusions.
The more cross-cultural the pattern is, the more likely the experience is.
Was there a local name that people called it?
Llorona.
Crying woman in Spanish.
Some people called it a wild man, but most people called it a slippery bear.
Every single tribe has their own stories about these animals.
We have our theory that the canyon's haunted.
Oh, this ain't natural.
He would warn his grandchildren the wood booger will get them.
Stories of Bigfoot go back generations and are very widespread. And of all the people this team has consulted with, Lynn McNeil, professor of folklore at Utah State University, was especially interesting. She's collected multiple versions of the Bigfoot legend going back hundreds of years.
And I also pulled out stories that reference an ape man.
I asked Lynn to come on the show to explore how Bigfoot plays such a big part in so many cultures. Welcome to this crew here. Welcome to our group.
Thank you for having me.
What did you think when they came in? What was your impressions of them?
You know what? It was sort of like everyone had just suddenly trundled into the library, this very quiet, strict place in our university. They were down in the folklore archives. And clearly, you know, their place in the world is in the wilderness and in the trees and you know, digging around through stuff.
Yeah. Whoa, idiot.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little, why is folklore interesting to you?
When most people think of folklore, they think of old wives' tales. Folklore is actually really, really broad. And when we call something folklore, really it's the stories, the customs, and the beliefs that we learn from each other, from our communities, rather than from our institutions.
It reminded me a lot of the ancient stories that have been told to me, and it gave me a feeling of peace.
I mean, what did you learn when you met Lynn that you didn't know?
Probably just that folklore wasn't BS.
Yeah, Bobo was very antagonistic because he went in with that thought in mind, where folklore, this isn't folklore, it's real.
Sasquatch is real. It doesn't take some PhD to authenticate it to me. I've seen him. Thousands of people have seen him.
To call something folklore makes no claim on whether it's true or not. We are not interested in proving whether it works or proving whether it's true. What we're interested in is the cultural significance.
In different cultures, different people, different lands, these same stories happen. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And You know, as folklorists, one of the questions we're trying to answer is, why do people tell these stories? It's either going to be your culture told you this creature exists and you just believe it, or you are seeing something that is there. And the more cross-cultural the pattern is, the more likely the experience is.
You feel honored to have had this creature show itself to you. It was such a profound moment in my life.
Native American Indians are a big part of sort of the history of Bigfoot. With older cultures, there's a respect of Bigfoot, which is kind of the opposite. I feel like now people want to make jokes about Bigfoot. And,
yeah, I mean, that's what kind of pisses me off. You know, it's like these things deserve the utmost respect. They're like a punchline for lame comics.
Outside Fresno, California is the Tule Indian Reservation, and on that reservation are the hairy man pictographs, which we had the opportunity to visit this past season.
Wow, I can't believe I'm in here.
Yeah, that's a woman one. You got to have the pair, the man and the woman. How else can you make little Bigfoots?
They're the only tribe that has Bigfoot in their creation story.
That's kind of rare that it's pictures. A lot, am I wrong, that a lot of Native American, it's oral tradition.
With Native populations, we have communities who have chosen the oral tradition as their preferred method of retaining their communal memory and their history. And when you take something like that and esteem it rather than dismiss it, you tend to get a purposeful preservation of detail, a lot more respect for the information that's held that way.
I believe it to be true. It is here. When you see it, when you hear it, you leave it alone. You don't bother it. You respect it.
I think sometimes you guys have where people are embarrassed or feel kind of ashamed to tell these stories.
She starts crying. She says, I want to get out of here now.
Something extremely large was in the window. I just freaked.
People are very rational in coming to these conclusions, and there's an immediate perception that people are not, that people are jumping to a, you know, crazy, impossible conclusion or dismissing rational explanations, and the evidence just doesn't show that. They end up coming to a conclusion of having seen Bigfoot or having experienced something like this after really careful processing.
When I hear you talk about these things, and it just adds a whole nother layer to this, which is how fascinating this is. So
you gotta be brain dead not to be fascinated by it.
Well,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Man, if she was a professor back when I was in college, that would have been my major.
Coming up, do Bigfoots have a particular smell?
Animals blow the anal glands, and it is putrid.
The team takes on some of your burning Bigfoot questions. What happens if you find Bigfoot?
We changed the name of the show to Found Bigfoot.
I saw something black on the corner of my eye, and I went, oh my God, it's a Sasquatch.
About as wide as he is, only like maybe a little bit bigger.
I could hear big steps coming towards the house.
It took 3 big hops down the side of the hill.
I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be in the woods with it.
The Finding Bigfoot audience always wants to know more. So I took this time to ask a few of your questions. This is from Jody V. Do Bigfoots have a particular odor or smell?
There's a certain bad smell sometimes associated with them, not quite as bad as a skunk, but almost as bad.
Bad as Bobo?
Probably worse.
There's a lot of cow pies around here. I mean, it smells like manure and skunk all rolled in one. I mean, it smells kind of like a squatch.
I've smelt that smell. It was about from me to you, like 100 yards long. Right here, you couldn't smell it. You'd walk through this patch, and your eyes would water.
There's a smell in the air. It smells like a sweet, rotting, decaying flesh.
It would be just another defense mechanism to ward off threats that are approaching them, either humans.
That's not even primates, too. I mean, if you think about it, have you ever startled a dog, you know, and caught him, and that dog can blow the anal glands, and it is putrid. I mean, they will fight.
What?
I mean,
blow the anal gland?
They do have a gland that makes a bad
Well, I knew
stench.
that. I just never heard those words in that order before.
They release it. I mean, they basically, you know, it's animals will use it for marks.
From Chris W. He wants to know, do we know if Bigfoots are in danger of becoming extinct?
Probably not.
I would suspect not. I mean, the threshold, like, population numbers for large mammals like that is actually fairly low.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's 5,000 to 8,000 across the country.
That sounds like a lot if they were all in one little valley, but you spread that out across. That's still the rarest large mammal.
I went back to look at it again, and they were just gone.
This last question from Jenny, this is a question you guys are asked all the time. What happens if you find Bigfoot?
Well, we changed the name of the show to Found Bigfoot.
What exactly do they think by find? If we kill one or we capture one?
I think people think you're going to throw Bigfoot in the back of a van and drive in and say, look, we found him. I think that's what people...
No, well, it's like, what's going to happen if we get very clear footage of them?
Cliff, you were always telling me about the day of discovery.
Well, yeah, since the species is real, discovery, if you want to call it that, is inevitable. I'm hoping that in some way that the show can play some sort of role of education.
Keep the line, keep your eyes open, everybody.
That these things are not monsters. They're peaceful, very passive, intelligent, inquisitive, problem-solving, possibly language-using beings.
There was like talking. Hello?
I have one last question for you guys. How did you enjoy getting out of being out in the woods and coming here?
I've had a great time. It's wonderful to have a completely different environment. We're indoors, warm, the food's great, the company's fabulous.
It's been great. And of course, I think we're all doing it for Bigfoots, right?
Yes. Yes, we all love Bigfoot.
What did you think about doing it?
Well, I think my most favorite thing about this is that, you know, I have people, you know, when I come in the morning, people iron my shirts and make sure my hair is
Sorry,
right.
I just can't stop laughing.
I'm stepping on my lines.
Why are you stepping all over?
I can't stop laughing, Matt.
Because they asked Renee to say it.
Why are we laughing, Bobo?
Because they asked Renee to do it.
You cut me off, and then you do it. That's what you do every time.
Well, we went down the road.
Get a little behind the scenes here.
Natural segue, and you guys ruined it.
Are we done with the show?